Good afternoon, everybody. It's Friday. Of course, you know, being a business owner, I don't know what public holidays are. So I've completely forgotten that today and Monday are public holidays. So a huge apology and thank you to Roger and Elmer for for letting me steal their public holidays. Although chatting to Elmer, he says, you know what, for him it's just Friday, and I think we're on the same page there. You know, we've had enough days of public holidays, etc. So we'll just take it and go for it. So Elmer is his car images are fantastic, and when I first saw them, I thought, I don't know how he gets those images. How does he take like all the studio? How does he shoot those cars where he shoots them? And it sort of confounded me. And then he showed me like a stop frame animation, and I went, it's so obvious. But anyway, I'm not going to steal his thunder. Elmer van Zyl is going to take us through his amazing photography, and just prepare to be amazed. Elmer, over to you.
Thank you, Quentin. Hello, everybody. First of all, I would just like to thank Quentin for allowing me to do this presentation today. And also, also hats off to him, because, there's a lot of admin that goes into the background that people don't know about. So Quentin, well done, mate. And firstly, I hope you guys enjoy what I'm going to present today. So, I've got so many images that I can share with you, but I've only got 60 minutes, so I'm going to try my best. And on that note, I also want to encourage you to ask as many questions as you want whenever you want. Quentin will give me a heads up there as they come in. And so yeah, let's get started. Just a little bit of a background of myself. Based in Cape Town, the most beautiful city in the world. I think most people will agree with that. And started my career in 2006. And started off as a wedding photographer, or wedding videographer rather. And so I was in that for about 2-3 years. And a short story on that quickly. When I was doing the wedding couple's photographer didn't arrive. So luckily I had my little Canon 350D. You guys remember that? When 8 megapixels was the all in all. And so took my camera out, took some photographs of the couple, and since then the couple liked it, and I thought, okay, let's give photography a go. And 2012, Mercedes-Benz approached me to do a coffee table book. I don't have it on me now, to photograph very rare classic Mercedes-Benz cars. And that's how it started. So the book was produced, and the owners saw it, and they asked me to photograph their collections, and that's how it all started. What I do for a living, obviously, I'm a photographer, and I photograph mainly cars. That's what pays the bills. And every now and then, I would do a wedding or a portrait session and so on, which I'll show you briefly now. I'm a content creator. I do social media for many companies. Mainly on the automotive industry. And so, yeah. So what I'm going to do, the agenda today is just we just handled the introduction. I'm going to show you a few campaigns that I did for companies, mainly for Audi, Volkswagen, and I've done some for Ford and Lamborghini and Ferrari. Then I'm going to handle day shoots and sets, how I photograph the cars and how I compile them. My sunset sessions, my night shoots. And I think what most people are interested in is the FDL technique, which is basically light painting. And then my workflow, how I edit those images. And then I'm obviously open for questions afterwards for those who haven't asked during this presentation. This is a fairly old image. This is when I was dabbling in HDR photography. HDR is the acronym for high dynamic range. Years ago, I would say about 5-6 years ago, it was extremely popular. It was also very frowned upon, so people that overwork the images, but I just love the whole process, how everything looks so artistic. This is another image. On the right-hand side, you can see there's a ship. I thought I'll bring that in after that presentation that, I can't remember his name. When they talked about boats and sailing.
Elmer van Zyl.
Yes, him, which was extremely interesting. And so I thought I'll bring that in as well. So that ship on the right is called the World, which is the most luxurious and biggest apartment block on the water. So that came in. The Table Bay Hotel contacted me and said, listen, this ship is arriving. It's going to park right in front of the hotel. Can you please take a photograph with both in it? Which was quite tricky. So this is another HDR process. And I had carte blanche at the waterfront that night without security stopping me. No tripod. So that was quite fun. And this is just another image at night taken at Century City. I used to do HDR photo walks, and I think that was the last one I've ever been on. It's getting quite rare now and scarce. I don't really see photo walks anymore, which is quite sad, but I think it will probably pop up again soon. Just a landscape image, I do that as well. I shoot so many cars in a month. I average about 25 cars a month, 25 cars a week. And so it's to do something else like landscapes or portraits, it does help. This image, this is probably my signature landscape shot. This has appeared in so many magazines, and last year, September, this was the like a centerfold in the National Geographic magazine. Very proud of that. So pretty cool. They did a nice write-up.
Very cool.
Thank you.
Love it.
So yeah, HDR process there, and just a little silly image in Milton of Old Shipwreck, I believe, there in the foreground. Century City, just another HDR photograph. I love doing panos. I love to crop my images in like a pano feel as well, especially when the customers want to order canvas shots and so on. And yes, I shoot people as well, not physically, but with my camera. And so this is a high-profile lady that owns very high-end cars, and she likes to brag about it on Instagram. So I do shoot people every now and then, which is fun. So I thought I'll bring in some of the car, which is an old Porsche Speedster. Very good friend of mine. His name is Ish Kaska. So he wanted to update his profile on Instagram and LinkedIn and so on. And obviously, if you've got nice toys to play with, why not bring that into the scene as well? So that is a gold Lamborghini. It's not made out of gold, it's just a plastic wrap, but I think it looks quite stunning. So another car in the background, and obviously a model, Justine Lefleur. Very nice model to work with. She's very professional, and we thought we'll try something different with my mate's TTRS there in the background. Not sure if there's any questions there, Quintin.
At the moment, it's just a whole lot of oohs and ahs at the cars. You know how cars are, hey?
Okay, yeah. So I thought I'll leave this one in. I won't let it be on the slide too much. But yeah, moving on.
Jacques Barlow is saying he's very excited to learn more about the FDL technique. So he's glad it's on the agenda.
Okay, perfect. No, lovely. Okay, I do shoot trucks as well, so slightly bigger than cars. This is a fairly new client, Absolute Wind. Having such a ball with them at the moment. They transport these massive wind turbines. And so I've been commissioned to photograph all their trips, up to the West Coast and into PE and stuff like that. So it's nice to, when the traffic officials close down a whole pass for you to have movement to photograph these trucks coming past. And obviously we do video on that as well. There's a different shot early in the morning. Okay, so campaigns. So just to mention a few of my clients, which I mentioned, I think, briefly earlier, is Audi South Africa. I do a lot of work for Audi dealerships, local dealerships, Volkswagen South Africa, and the local Volkswagen dealers. Also double with Ford, Jaguar, Land Rover. Hopefully Mazda will be on board soon, and Fiat Chrysler. Not really Chrysler, but from the Fiat side of things. So let's get into it. So this local dealership, Audi Center N1, Audi launched the new Audi A3, which is coming soon. And they asked me, they want an image of the dealership and to say that something new is coming. So they had an idea of having the car wrapped. You know, you can't see what it is and just have the LED showing or shining through the actual cloth where the car is covered. And I thought I'll come up with something different. And so this photo, what inspired me to do that was the Transformers movie. So you all see the Autobots, you know, arriving from space. It looks like a meteorite. So I thought I'll bring that into it. This is quite a sad story. This car, a local dealership wanted to create the old racing legends in 95, 96. They wanted to produce a race car once off for a client to buy. And so I photographed this white S4. And I changed all the colors and to bring in all those racing heritage back to it. And so everything you see there is not real. So except for the car, the wheels are fake, you know, the decals and stuff like that. Obviously I have to put my name on it right over there. And so yeah, so sadly this project never went ahead, but it was a very fun one to do. Fairly simple, this one, you know, at the moment, the Audi CI is less is more. They are shying away now from producing or having images that's too magazine-like, you know, or a brochure type look and feel to the images. So I photographed this white Audi Q2. It was white as a sheet, and I had to change the color to a nano gray, is what we call it. And so obviously with Cape Town in the background, and in the foreground was the actual dealership, and I just combined those two together. This was a fun one, and an editing nightmare. So this is your typical brochure look and feel. This is the Audi S3 that got launched. So after that dealership photograph, that very next morning, we went to Bloberg to photograph this car. So it's super sharp, super crisp. Had a Canon 6D with us. And with the new 2470 F4, this was 2016, 17, more or less there. We photographed this car. What makes the editing a nightmare is to remove the reflections on the side there. So there's lots of Photoshop work to make it nice and clean.
Especially because that seems to have been an overcast day. So you would have had clouds and all sorts in there, huh?
Yeah, no, absolutely. So luckily it was, the background there is clouds. Yes, I put I went back the next day to photo because there was clouds. So I thought that will bring a nice element to the image. And so yeah, so the previous day was photographed on a clear day at about sunset. And the next day I brought in the clouds with Table Mountain there. Similar thing, this was only a week later. This is the S3 sedan. Similar process, same spot. And it was just an evening shot with Cape Town there in the background. Is there any questions there, Quintin?
Not at the moment. We just got Lyle saying, awesome image for the new A3 Audi.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, no, there's no specific questions yet. I think they're wanting to see what's coming up.
Okay, cool. This is for a local dealership, Volkswagen dealership with the new Touareg. This is, I know everybody's keen to learn about the FDL. This is a typical FDL light painting image. So I photographed the car inside the dealership. And obviously in the background is the actual car in motion. So yeah, this is inside the dealership, and had to remove a hell of a lot of people in the background, but it worked out fine. this is when the Audi R8 finally arrived in Cape Town. Also a editing nightmare, because I really wanted the car to pop. So I'm not sure if any wedding photographers out there or on here, but years ago, we used to photograph the bride with a bouquet, and the bouquet will be in color and the rest in black and white. So luckily that has come to an end, because it was cool at the time.
Yeah,
and I thought, yeah. So, but I thought I'll bring that back with this image, with the backlights in color and the badge, the R8 badge, and then the rest in black and white. So I think it works pretty well here, with Table Mountain there in the background and in the foreground here, which is also a whole lot of different images blended together. And here's the end result. You killed how many kittens with selective color? I like that, Megan. Hello, Megan. How are you? Anyway, so, okay. Ready, Set, Thrill. Also, just another campaign with the Audi R8 being launched. And for this is what you can see Audi Cape Town for a local dealership. Photograph the car just outside the dealership. And then obviously Table Mountain once again in the background. So I'm going to start now with my day shoots, and it's just my approach on it. It's very basic stuff: experiencing the cars, midday examples, what to look out for, and the challenges I face. There's not always. Sorry, what?
I've got a question for you.
Yes.
So when it comes to finding locations for your shoots, I know that up here in Joburg, if we want to use, I suppose, more iconic spots, there's a lot of permissions with regards, you can't shoot this here, you can't do this, can't do that, etc. How do you go about sorting out permissions for where you're shooting?
Okay, so that's a very good question. First thing that pops in my mind is Table Mountain. So, I mean, there's such a beautiful road, and unfortunately, you need a permit to photograph there. And I think I'm going to get a lot of frowny faces now when I say this, but when I take the cars out, I don't take my tripod. I take my camera, and I choose the time of day that I'm going to photograph the car. So then I will drive up to the Table Mountain, park the car, and I will start taking photographs. I've been stopped twice. Once is the guy said, listen, you can't take photographs here. It's not allowed. So I said, listen, my boot, I've got money, I've got taste, that's my car. Can I please take a photograph of my car? So then I would take a snap or two, and then the rest is all in Photoshop work. What I also do is I go to parking lots where it's fairly open and clear. And I park the car there, photograph the car, and then I would change the background. What I do now at the moment is Burgundy Estate, which is in Cape Town. It's a fairly new estate. I would drive there. It's so many roads that you can see they're busy planning where the new apartment blocks is going to go up. So there's lots of empty roads there. So I'll park the car on that road just to have the foreground element and the road element in the shot. And then the background I would change. So that's how I basically approach all my shoots, most of it. Hopefully that answers your question.
Yeah, cool. Thank you.
Experiencing the cars, yeah, that's always a fun bit, and it's also stressful. Basically, the manufacturer will phone me and say, listen, like, for example, we've got this Alpha Julia. We'd like to have some photos, basic stuff. So I would go fetch the car, fill in 17,000 forms, and give my ID and sign my life away. So if something does happen, it's my responsibility. And I do get to experience the cars every now and then, which is always fun. That's the fun part of my job. So dealing with midday shoots, the reason why we do it midday is we don't always have enough time with the car. So there's so many journalists out there that needs that very same car, either later that afternoon or the following day. Sometimes I'm lucky to have the car longer than 2 days. But in midday, you know, obviously there's lots of harsh shadows, but you have to work with it. And luckily with my HDR skills, that does help a lot when I focus, you know, when I take photographs of the low lights and the highlights, and I just blend them all together, and you get this nice, perfectly exposed image. This is one of those examples on this Ford, oh my word, what's this? Everest.
Everest, yeah.
Yeah, so this was taken 4 years ago. And so this is at the Joossenberg Mountains, where you can go with your bicycle. You pay 50 Rand and you can drive there, and that's where I do probably most of my off-road photographs, because I'm allowed to go there and I can take photographs that don't have any issues there. And so I get the mountains in the background, and obviously if it's blooming in August, I can't remember the flower, but then it's full of this purple flower everywhere. And so yeah, I do use a little bit of fill-in flash. As you can see here on the front, I only used one flash here, and the rest is all blended in with multiple exposures. I love the way the mountains pop when you work with your clarity a little bit, and on the midday. And I think it's just an overall nice image. And I like the way this mountains just focuses down to the car. It works beautifully. Another midday one. This is a front cover of my Audi book that I created a few months ago. So it's a typical photograph of the car standing there, the foreground. So this is the actual foreground over here where the car was standing, and photographed it. And this is just a different background. I can't remember the site now offhand. I think it's Speak Smart. You can go on there and you can download any background you want, and you don't have to pay for it. You just have to give the photographer, if you feel like it, to give them some recognition for that background. And there's stacks there that you can download from if you're running out of ideas for stock. This is just the Alpha Julie, just the front side. This is on your way to Komiki. So even though the background is Table Mountain, most of my clients want the Table Mountain in the background. It is so overshot. If they tell me they want another Table Mountain photograph, I want to seriously cry because I've done so many. But it's obviously new to them. This was a very, very fun day. It's a R8 that the local dealership phoned me, Gaudi Centre, Cape Town. I mean, they've got this blue pre-owned R8. We want some images for our social media. As you can see, most of my content is mainly social media content, so fairly basic stuff. And so I took the car out for the whole day, and I thought, I'm not going to go to Blouberg. I'm going to go to Worcester. So went to Worcester, took the pass. Halfway there, I thought I'll just stop, because that car is so exhilarating. You know, you do get too comfortable with it. And so I thought I'll do this photograph with the car, and then the tree, and the caption is, the apple doesn't fall far from the tree type of thing.
I really like that shot. It's nice and clean and simple. It just talks about the car. Nice.
Yeah, less is more. So, and this is a good friend of mine's wife. She owns that R8. So this is Megan, I think you'll like this one. This is a typical panning shot. So the foreground here is a road near Onze Huisie in Blouberg. I turn it into sand, and I let her drive past me 3 or 4 times. And just to get that, get that movement feel to it. And I just changed the background of Saldanha. So, yeah. Similar thing in Blouberg. There's a massive parking lot called Kreeftebaai. Park the R8 there, change the foreground to match the salt flats look and feel, and obviously the background there of the clouds is my old stock images I've got.
I was just going to say, I've never seen Blouberg, with that much salt deposit on.
On the the reason, luckily, because if you can see on the tire there, that white, that is off that parking lot. And it's a massive white sandy bit, and I thought it just blends in beautifully. Yeah. This is a set, the new Audi A7 that got launched beginning of this year, I think. Oh my word, I need to think back now. Beginning of this year. And this is also a FDL Technique. So unfortunately, you know, we can't take the cars out. This is the only one in the country. And so it's on our showroom floor. And so we can't move the car, we can't drive the car. So I have to make do with taking photographs inside the dealership and trying to make it as interesting and striking as possible. This is just the back end of the car. Stunning car, this. I just love this red line. And something that's very tricky on cars is to photograph these LEDs perfectly. So the one exposure is for the car, everything else, and then the other exposure, which is a very fast shutter speed, depends on the car. It's about 250, 300 of a second. So it's a really dark image to really get those red LEDs perfectly. And I just blend those in Photoshop afterwards. Similar situation with these LEDs here in front. This car's got such a pretty nose. I love photographing cars from the front. It really shows their character. And also bring that little red Audi rhombus in the background just to balance things out, I guess. Shot of the wheel, another FDL Technique. Right, I'm standing on 26 minutes, Quintin, so I'm going to move on a little bit.
That's fine.
So I can get to, this is just more sets that I did for Volkswagen. So they wanted 5 images of the car. And so there's a little deserted road that I always drive down to. And there's always people working on the farm, and they love it when I bring cars down there. So they always open the gate for me. This car, this image here is the car is actually standing still. This is the Burgundy estate. So I just park it there and I just change the background and bring in trees if I need to and just make it work for me. Night shoots and sunset. Obviously my camera setup, I would say 90% of the time I don't use a tripod because I have to be quick. So when I park the car there, as you can see, Carl Stander, a very good friend of mine, took this snap while I wasn't looking of me photographing this Golf. And so me laying in the road, parking the car in the middle of the road, it can get quite tricky. And so I have to be quick. So I park the car, get out, photograph it, move the car, get out, lay down, photograph. So that's why I mostly spend time taking photographs of cars. I've got some sunset examples and some before and afters, night examples and what to look out for, etc. Yes, it's another Audi. So the new Audi A1 got launched, and so they only wanted to bring in little elements of what makes this car different of the old one. So I went to Chapman Speak. And so I parked the car in a way so that the light here on the left shines on this S-line badge. So I had to move around and move the car around to get it right because that's what I really wanted. And obviously it's not table mounted, thank goodness, but it's the Sentinel. So people that know Cape Town will know this as well. Just the new LEDs and obviously the Sentinel in the background. This is all single exposures. There's no multiple exposures, only single exposure. And in Photoshop, I just bring in this little flare just to bring some life into the image and to bring your attention to the LEDs here. Same with the back. Love this little car. This is my second Audi I've ever shot. It's a black Audi RS6, which is known as the Beast. So I had this car for the whole day. So that whole day, I counted it last night, I took about 648 photographs. So from the morning, 9:30 until that evening, about 7:15, I was done with the car, and I've got all these images to play with. And obviously the sun was perfectly there in the middle, you know, just to create this nice halo around the car. Not showing much of detail about the car, but the LEDs really shows of what this thing is all about, and how the sun is falling on the car, on the curves there. It just shows you how wide it is. Also single exposure, slightly underexposed, and just to get detail here in the background of the sunset. Now this is my HDR technique. So basically, you know, when I photograph cars, I use that multiple exposure. So one underexposed to get details in the sky, on the highlights, and then on my midtones, and then I do a slower shutter speed to get details in the low lights, in the shadow areas. And so you can see there's like a mid exposure, and that pretty much is the exposure for the car over here. And then my overexposed images to have details over here, and then inside the wheels to get the calipers and the brake discs and so on. So, and then that is when it's blended. I use Photomatics to blend all my images together. They auto align it, and they do pretty good job, especially with black cars, because you can imagine the camera and the software sees black, and it's going to be so noisy. But Photomatics, the photorealism section, it really does a good job. And here's the edited version. So from there to there, there's almost no editing. Just adding the flare just to give it a nice warm feeling. The soft side of the car. This is my own wheels. Picked this up last year, and so I thought I want to be different. I don't want my horizon straight. I'll add some Cape Town in there in the background. And this was photographed also at Burgundy Estate, and it really changed the colors of the car, just to make it look and feel different. And then Volkswagen South Africa approached me and said, "We love that image." I said, "But the horizon is skew." I said, "No, we like it." So then they did a massive campaign on the Volkswagen Arteon, and I was very happy for them to use that.
It's a really nice editorial type shot, that.
Yeah, pretty much. Now this is Bugatti Chiron. They did a massive tour in Cape Town later last year, and was it last year? Oh my, I've got my dates all wrong here. This lockdown is not working. So so I had about 10 minutes with the car. So obviously this is an 80 million rand car. This owner's got 4 of them. I don't know why 4, but he's got 4. And so I had 10 minutes with the car, and I photographed this just to, you know, there's so many Chiron or Bugatti images on the web, but it's not yours. So I thought I will grab that quickly. I'm going to move on a little bit quicker now. So this is just another sunset shot with the Audi RS3, and this was also very fun for Maserati South Africa. A very good friend of mine and photographer Melanie Bentley went with me that day. She showed me all the secret locations to photograph the car. So we would drive around the park, take photographs, take photographs. And so it was quite fun. It's my job can also be very lonely, even though I'm with a very nice car, but to have some company in the car is also fun sometimes. This is the car in motion. This road was pretty much empty. Nothing happens there. So I think the time of day was quite good for that sunset. And this car is actually standing still, but in Photoshop, I gave that movement feel to it. All these photographs was used in Dubai's Financial Mail and Qatar's Financial Mail, and in, I can't remember now, in the Middle East somewhere also, as to promote this car, all photographed in Cape Town. This was a fun one. For a security company, they wanted me to take, they've got photographs of that they take on their cell phones. And so they said they want something different. So I said, I can gladly help with that. And so I created this this image for them, which is hanging inside the control room. Some art for the office. This is the new look and feel for Audi going forward. They want high contrast, very different photographs, nothing magazine look and feel. So this is, they asked me to, they want to see how wide the car is. They want to really show it how wide it is. So I thought I'll do that. So, you know, park it in the road. This scene over here is not quite Cape Town. There's different elements of it in there. But let the car stand out a little bit to show how wide it is.
I love the warm color tone in that.
Yeah, same here. So I like to do things a little bit differently, and yeah. I also do dealerships itself, you know, the actual buildings. Architecture is quite tricky, but also this is a HDR process, multiple exposures, and so I did this for them. Then for Audi Centre Cape Town, I've done so many for them. It's this is quite an old image, but yeah, it does help when you know how to do multiple exposures. The launch of the Audi A4. I can't remember the last time they lit up the mountain. They lit up the mountain blue for, it was Cancer Awareness Month or something like that. And I was just lucky that night, that one night, we were there. They had the lights on. Just a different angle. This is early days, 2016. Since then, a lot of things have changed. Good friend of mine's RS6 with a moon. Thought I'll bring that in because it was quite a moon week this week. This is the actual tunnel. When the car arrived here in Cape Town, we went down the Huguenot tunnel. And so, you know, it's so difficult. I was on the other car behind him, and I shot through, hanging outside the window, taking photographs. You can only drive 90 kilometers an hour. But we slowed down to about 30 and really had a slow shutter speed to get this movement feel to it. I did enhance it a little bit more in Photoshop, but it's pretty much how the image came out. And so this side, this here is pretty much the tunnel, and this side, and then the rest is all added on. So it's just of the same image is brought over to the other side just to make it feel a little bit wider and bigger. Yeah, so we were driving on the N1, 1 o'clock in the morning. And so Carl Stander, a good friend of mine, I call him my stunt driver. He is pretty much 90% of the time, he helps me out to drive the cars, and I can get some panning shots of them and help me move and so on. And we were on the back of his bakkie on the N1 photographing this Porsche coming down the N1 with his lights. So yeah. Slow shutter speed, about 1/10 of a second. It can get quite bumpy, but if you rapid fire, out of the 750,000 that you take, there will be 5 or 6 that's usable. Also another one with Carl. This was on a mountain at, oh, what's that copy called, Carl? Are you watching? Tigerberg Hill. So it was supposed to be a clear morning to taking this Amarok up, and it was misty, and it actually worked out quite fine. This is the second shoot for Maserati. So I brought in the stars there in the background, and and I just really changed the colors just to make it look and feel a little bit different. Okay, so for what everybody's been waiting for, I've got 20 minutes left. Hopefully I'm going to be quick enough. So my camera setup, before and after samples, my FDL, and so let's get straight to it. If you wonder what's going on here, I'll explain to you. I know it's a bit of a mess, but it all will make sense soon. The FDL Technique for Volkswagen on the Combi. This is just the back end of it. It's such a big car. Wow. You know, this took about an hour to photograph, and you forget how big these things are until you start photographing, and especially this for FDL Technique. FDL Technique is an acronym for Focus Diffused Light. So basically what it is, I've got my speed light, and I'm not sure if wedding photographers can remember the old Stoffen what you call it, filters that you put on front.
It's like that the little Tupperware box that goes on the end.
Yeah, exactly that. So that Tupperware little piece of plastic that you put in front of your speed light, I have that on. And then on top of that, I've got a Fotex. I'm not sure if everybody can see me, but I've got this Fotex little soft box as well. And then I use a reflector just to soften the light even more. So I'm gonna move on quickly so I can get to the techniques here. This is a new Audi Q8 and with
That's lovely.
those with the wire brush, not the wire brush, the stuff you put in the klitzer and you just light it and you steel wool, exactly that. This is one I did for Ford, so I'm gonna skip through this a little bit. I can get to the explanation of FDL. And so this is once again also cars, you know, that we can't move. And doing the FDL, it really pops out nicely. And I do some light leaks in Photoshop just to make it a little more colorful and vibrant. So when people scroll through Instagram or Facebook, this will grab them, hopefully. That's the idea. And so we do work with algorithms, and we have daily meetings or weekly meetings with Facebook to understand what do people want and how do they search and browse. Okay, so just more of that. I love doing details on cars, you know, such nice, pretty different elements of a car that I try to capture as much as possible. Like a wedding photographer capturing that makeup shot. Okay, so here is a before after. A before and after session we're going to start now. So this is how someone with a cell phone or with my camera would take a photograph and post it and think, oh my word, how beautiful is this car? But we need to make it a little bit different because I think that's my selling point to my clients as well, because I create these and we post that online, and it just looks different, you know. It's like an arty feel to it. This is another car standing on the showroom floor, red Audi S5, and then after a 10-minute photograph session and an hour edit, we get that. So I just want to point out something here. I think I'll start it. I've got like a little section coming up where I can show you how I photograph it. This is another car standing there. This was taken just before lockdown, so I can keep myself busy and sane while we are sitting at home and washing cars and cleaning the house. I do these every now and then. This is quite a large edit. This is about an hour and a half's edit. But from there to there, I think it's quite worth it. Another before and after, just highlighting elements of the car. So another one standing there. I think, and what makes this nice is that it's not an inconvenience to the client to organize the cars for me to go out and the risk involved of driving the cars, but I can do it on the showroom floor and make it look nice.
And if they can get that level of quality and awesomeness of image, it's a no-brainer, you know.
Absolutely. So, right, now here's the Audi Q7 standing. So this is what it looks like. And then that's the end result. Now, how I get there is like this. You can see I've got my reflector. I've got my speed light on a Fotex remote trigger, and I only photograph one side of the car. That's the only side I photograph. I don't do both. It's too much work. I've got too much work on my hands to worry about editing for too long. So luckily, you know, when cars are built, it looks exactly the same side as on the other side. So I only photograph one side of the car. There's the grille that I'm doing now. And then I get the headlight and this area. So I photograph different elements of the car, which I'm going to blend in later. And I get the little diffuser and the bumper section there. Then I get the roof, this pillar over here, and then the light falling off here, and the top highlight there of the mirror. this is just making sure that I've got the different elements of the grille properly. And the badge. And this, hopefully you guys got that. So I've got like a little video, Quintin, so it's only 2 minutes long. Do you think I can play that?
Yeah.
Will that be okay on the net?
Go for it. Go for it.
Okay, cool. So I'm going to skip through this. This is a Mustang that I did. This is the after result. And how I got to it is like this. So I'm going to talk over here. Hopefully it's okay. Can you hear me all right there, Quintin?
Yes, perfectly.
Okay. So basically what I'm doing here is all the elements that I photographed, I bring it into Photoshop, auto-align them, and then I brush in all the highlights. Since this edit, I've learned a new trick. Is so when I bring in that section of the car that I'm going to brush in Photoshop, I use the, on your blending filters, it's on lighten. Usually I use overlay, but this time when I use lighten, it only brings out the highlights of that, what I want to blend in. It just makes editing so much easier. So over here, I'm starting to clean up the car and get rid of all the little reflections. And as you can see, if you paid attention to how I moved the one side of the car over to the other side, that it looks like I photographed it precisely on the other side as well.
So it's again one of those situations where the more that you know about the program that you're editing in, the better you.
I can't hear you. Just give me a second. It's almost done. Sorry, you were saying, Quintin?
I was just saying that it's another example of, by going through Photoshop and practicing and learning different techniques, the better you get at it, the better the end result will be, because there are just so many different ways to do these types of edits.
Absolutely. It's on my YouTube channel, I've got about probably 13, 15 videos like this where you can really see how I do it. And so you're more than welcome to visit my YouTube channel and go through it. I'm thinking of doing a longer video. Do you read the show in detail, like an hour video, and in real time, how I edit these images?
I think that'd be pretty cool for someone to watch.
Yeah, well, I hope so. And so this is also like a FDL technique. So this is interiors of cars. I haven't really been showing it, but also photographing different elements. I would photograph that part of the seat, that part of the door, this of the steering wheel, and this element to get the carbon fiber, and then the stitching, and it's a nightmare. But you know, it's a session I hate, but I absolutely love when I'm done with it. This is off the Q7 standing in front of Table Mountain. And so this is a very good friend of mine's car, his TTRS, which is super quick and super pretty. And I'm super jealous. And
I can tell that it's not super comfortable. That's for sure. No. That seat looks super hard.
It is. I actually sat in the car next to him and we went for a drive. And luckily, I had a nappy on. So it's actually it's molded to his bum. So that his seat is molded to him. This is for the general people. And so this is my HDR process. This is what it looks like. So I bring in those different exposures that I spoke about earlier, blend them, and this is what it looks like. It just looks dull and ugly. And then I go into Lightroom, and then I just do my contrast, my dehaze tool, which is a fantastic slider to use in Lightroom. And so that's the end result of that. And then obviously after some Photoshop work, this is what we have. Yes, it's another Table Mountain background, but that's what the people want. And that's the end result. I love the warm feeling to it. I think it goes well with the reds of the Alcantara in the car. And that was pretty much the brief from the client as well. With the interior shot, do you ever move the focusing point around? No, I don't, Doc. What I do is, in this case, I would focus over here on the steering wheel. My aperture is about f13, more or less. It depends where I am in the car and what the depth of field would be, but f13, f8 is my go-to number. And so then everything is pretty much tack sharp. That's a very good question, though. Different car and just a different scenery in the background. I like to bring in this little flares. I think it adds quite a nice feel to it. Some people hate it, some people don't. I do a lot of tests on 500 Pix website, and so it just brings it brings your interior shots to life, in my opinion. Yes, Hamish, my camera's on a tripod, very important. So when I put my camera down doing the FDL technique, my camera's on a tripod, a sturdy tripod, and I put my camera on timer for 10 seconds. That's the longest my camera will allow. So I press the button, I run to the car, place myself, take the shot, walk back, check the shot, and I do it all over again. So I do that about 16, 17 times. It's a great workout. You don't have to go to Virgin Active, I promise you. So I do that, and I put it on the tripod. Yes, very good question. Just want to see if there's anything else here. If you had to choose one program to edit, what would it be? Definitely Photoshop. I use Photoshop and Lightroom. Photoshop is my panel beating software, and then Lightroom is when I do all the finer touches. We are almost done, so I think I'm doing well on time. I'm sitting on 52 minutes. Is that okay, Quentin? Are we on track?
Yeah, no, we're still good.
Okay. So, going through the images yesterday, I've got so many that I wanted to share, but I thought I'll show you guys the images that really, when I say broke the internet, it was actually the cable in the ocean, but that really did well and gave me a lot of exposure. One of them is this RS6 standing in front of the Shackleton, which is in Cape Town. Once a month, they do a ground run. So where they actually start up the plane, let the propellers run at full tap, but it doesn't take off. And afterwards, I asked the guys there, because I used to do a lot of photographs for the Air Force Museum. And if I can please park the car there, this customer or this friend of mine wants to shot with this car with the doors open and with the Shackleton, which is quite a unique shot. This image is a nice image, but I think the subject is fantastic. It's that gold Lamborghini that I showed you earlier. People can't believe that this car is in gold. So I think just because of that, it did extremely well. Especially on Twitter. Lamborghini all over the world shared this image. What helicopter that is, I am not sure. I think it's a Roy Falk or Roy something. I don't know planes.
I think it might be a Roy Falk. Yeah.
So when I do the flares, I happened to be, there was a little car show at the Air Force Museum in Cape Town, and they had planes doing these flares. Nobody was told about it. It was just some entertainment. And I happened to have my camera, so I photographed that, and I thought it would be quite a cool scene while we're at Saldanha, just to bring those two elements together. So this image did extremely well online. And this almost got me in huge trouble. I wanted to really try to do something very different. I like to work against the grain. And so this is a photograph in Sandton. And so I posted that on Twitter, and everybody went berserk, thinking that Sandton has come to an end. And so it's like, no, guys, it's not real. So yeah, I was in some hot water with that one. This is my friend's Audi RS6. This did extremely well on the web. It is the most unique car in South Africa. Sadly, it's sold now because he's moved to Singapore. But a really cool car, very different military look. This image specifically, I don't know why this one, but it was the first time the car was on the road, and people get to see the car for the first time. We launched it in July last year, or 2 years ago. And so I was hanging outside the window of his Q7, doing at 120 kilometers an hour, which is not recommended. You know, when you do these type of shots, you go a bit slow. You go 50 kilometers an hour with a slower shutter speed. But he really wanted to push the car. So I'm hanging outside this car in winter at 120 kilometers an hour, freezing my butt off, taking these photographs at about 100th of a second. So yeah, let me just move on to this one. Similar thing, just a plane taking off. This is a stock image that I bought with a plane. I wanted to put in there Mango or Kulula or Safi. I think South African Airways will not be a good taste right now. So we did this as well. So it's like little captions. The caption here was, when life goes tough, remember, a plane always takes off against the wind, not with it. So that was the caption for this photograph for a good friend of mine. Oh, also another image that got shared all over the world, out of Vietnam, France, USA, UK, all local dealerships used this image. It was a supermoon 3 years ago. And so I photographed this for Audi Center Bruma in Joburg. And we called it the Super Saloon instead of Super Moon. So obviously all the Audis around the world use this image.
I really like that. Good, nice lighting and all of that with the moon behind. Very cool.
Yeah. So this was early days. Early days for FDL. It's just one softbox in front, and I created that line in Photoshop.
Very nice.
To make it look like the moon, you know, reflection on the car. This is a very good client of mine's racing truck. Stunning thing. So this is also a FDL Technique in midday. So luckily I've got a high-speed sync flash. So I was shooting at 1,500th of a second. With my speed light was working shame because I could hear the thing go off every time. And when that thing fired at full blast. So this is a racing truck. This truck actually has got massive turbos and nitros. And so this is the back end of it, photographed in Saldanha. And this is the front. And this is the wheel spinning. Not really, but let's just pretend that it was. You can see there's a nitrous bottle. Thank you. Wow. Okay. Yes, Megan, it's a racing truck. It is. So when I say racing truck, it's got everything it needs to be a racing truck, but it doesn't get raced. It's standing in a white glass box at the client's premises at his office for everybody to look at. And yeah. Michael, that's a very good question. Do you license your images so that when they are used globally, you get some financial benefit? Michael, yes and no. You know, they do request photographs from me, and if they put my name on the photograph, then it's fine. They can use it at no charge, no watermark. You pay me 2,500 Rand per image per platform. So yeah.
Cool. Thanks, Elmer. I just want to see if we can wrap it up before it cuts us off. I think we've got a couple of seconds left. I just wanted to say thank you very much. I really appreciate your time and your effort in showing us your technique. And if you wouldn't mind answering a couple of questions on the group as they come up afterwards. That would be fantastic. So thank you very much for your time, especially on a public holiday. And yeah, thanks a lot. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Quintin. Thank you, everyone.
Cheers.